Say, feel the rush, feel the rush, feel. Hey, that's your song. Feel the Riggy.
That was trying to keep my secret. Y'all. Stop. 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 Okay, stop.
I can't.
You are crazy. Okay. Stop.
Cookie must.
Come on. Let's do a walk around.
I got it.
Damn hurt. I have not worn heels like that in so long.
On a dark road in Gainesville, Florida, police say Tyrone Davis Jr. made a fatal choice. They say he opened the passenger door of his own car, moving at 45 miles per hour, and jumped. They say his girlfriend was the driver. They say she tried to save him. But there is a massive problem with that story. Police say he jumped, but the evidence says his body didn't have a single scratch, cut, or mark of road rash. And the driver? She wasn't even supposed to be able to walk, let alone drive. She was in a heavy medical boot with a serious injury. So how did she press the brake? And why did Tyrone show signs of a fall that physics says is impossible? Welcome back to Real True Crime 24/7. May you and your family stay safe wherever you are. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because we bring you the part the media never reported. Before we go any further, we want to take a moment to pray for the soul of Tyrone Davis Jr. May he find eternal rest. We send our deepest condolences to his family as they fight through this pain. And we pray for you, watching this right now. May protection be over you and your loved ones in everything you do. Today, we are opening a case that authorities consider closed, but the laws of physics do not. We are looking at 3 facts that simply do not fit together. Fact 1. A driver who was medically unable to use her foot to press a brake. Fact 2. A body that allegedly fell from a speeding car, yet showed no signs of sliding on the road. Fact 3. A police department that declared case closed while the questions were just beginning. How did we get here? How does a story about a domestic argument cover up these physical impossibilities? The official story is that Tyrone jumped. But when you look at the photos and you look at the medical records, a different picture starts to form. A picture that suggests the car might not have been moving at all. Something darker is hidden in the timeline. Let's look at the evidence. To understand why this case refuses to go away, we have to look at 3 specific details that shatter the official story. First, consider the person behind the wheel. We aren't talking about a minor sprain or a limp. We are talking about a woman known to the public as Lulu, who was in the middle of a serious medical recovery. Her injury was severe enough to require surgery. For over a year, she had been unable to drive. Yet we are asked to believe that on this specific night, during a high-stress argument, her foot was capable of operating a vehicle at highway speeds. Then, look at the physical aftermath. If a human body exits a car moving at 45 miles per hour, the road takes a toll. Physics dictates that momentum carries you forward. You slide, you tumble, the asphalt acts like sandpaper against skin. But when Tyrone's family viewed his body, they saw something that defied explanation. There were no scrapes, no tears, no road rash. He had suffered massive trauma to the head, yes, but the rest of him was untouched. It was as if he had fallen from a standing position, not from a speeding car. And finally, the official conclusion. The Gainesville Police Department closed this file within days. They cited a past polygraph test as proof of truth. They called it not suspicious. But while the police were closing the book, witnesses were coming forward with a different version of events. People who saw the car that night say it wasn't a quiet ride. They describe a scene that contradicts the calm narrative of an accidental jump. Over the next hour, we aren't just telling a story. We are reconstructing the drive to find out who was really behind the wheel. To understand why the events of that night are so jarring, you first have to understand the man at the center of them. Tyrone Davis Jr. was known as a protector. When you look at the photos released by the Davis family, you don't just see a boyfriend. You see a man who stood tall for the people he loved. He was the reliable one, the person who took charge. That sense of responsibility extended to his possessions. His Audi wasn't just a car, it was his pride. Friends and family knew how much he cared for that vehicle. He didn't let people borrow it. He rarely let anyone else drive it. The driver's seat was his domain. It is difficult to imagine him voluntarily handing over control of that car, especially to someone with limited mobility. For months, the roles in his relationship had been strictly defined. Tyrone was the driver. Lulu was the passenger. This wasn't a choice, it was a medical necessity. Since her foot injury, he had been her lifeline. He drove her to appointments, he helped her move around. He was the one making sure she got where she needed to go. On the night of his death, that established pattern suddenly and inexplicably reversed. We need to look at the timeline of that injury. This was not a hidden struggle. Lulu posted about her recovery openly. She shared the reality of her situation, the boot, the crutches, the difficulty of simple movements. She was in a state of healing that made walking a challenge. Driving a car requires force. It requires a sudden, sharp reaction time from your legs and feet. The internet saw her struggle to walk. The police report claimed she could drive. After the incident, as questions began to mount, Lulu addressed the world. She tried to silence the doubt with a declaration of love. She wrote, "This has been the most heartbreaking thing that I've ever been through. We were not perfect, but we were literally made for each other. I would never do anything to harm him." Her words painted a picture of two people against the world, inseparable, made for each other. But behind the scenes, something darker was lurking. While the posts showed unity, the family noticed the cracks. They saw the strain that comes with dependency. Was he staying because he wanted to, or because she needed him? The family sensed that the caretaking had turned into a weight he was struggling to carry. The tension was real, and it was about to snap. It was early January. The sun had set, leaving the road in total darkness. Inside the Audi, the world was closed off. According to the statement given to the Gainesville police, the atmosphere inside the car had shifted. Lulu told investigators that an argument began. She claimed Tyrone had been drinking. But when his family heard this detail, they immediately pushed back. They said it didn't fit. They insisted that reckless drinking was uncharacteristic of him. It felt like a detail added to justify the chaos that followed. The official story claims the fighting escalated until it reached a breaking point. She claims he threatened to end his life. She claims she was the one behind the wheel, navigating the road when he made his move. He opened the door. He exited the vehicle. Then came the call to 911. In cases like this, the timeline is everything. The duration between the event and the dial tone tells us about the state of mind. Was it immediate panic, or was there a pause? The police relied heavily on her description of these moments to close the file. But the question remains, if you're driving a car with a broken foot and your partner jumps, how do you manage the vehicle and the phone at the same time? This brings us to the mechanics of the drive. We have to look at the physical reality of operating a machine. Driving is not just about steering, it is about pressure. To stop a car in an emergency, like when a passenger suddenly opens a door, you have to slam on the brakes. You need roughly 60 pounds of force to execute a sudden stop. You need ankle flexibility. You need sensation. Medical consensus is clear on this. Driving with a heavy medical boot is dangerous. The cast restricts the ankle. It blocks the feeling of the pedal. If she was driving and he jumped, her instinct would have been to stomp on the brake. Could she physically do that? And if she couldn't generate that force, did the car keep rolling while he fell? The physical limitations of the driver have led to a different theory. It is a theory that is gaining traction because it solves the physics problem. What if the roles never swapped? What if Tyrone was driving just like he always did? The theory suggests the car wasn't speeding down the highway when the tragedy happened. It suggests the car pulled over. It suggests the argument didn't end in a jump, but spilled out onto the roadside. If the car was stopped, it explains how she could be present without needing to drive. It explains why the body didn't slide. But if the car was stopped, why does the police report say he jumped from a moving vehicle? Something darker was lurking in the timeline. If the car never moved, the entire premise of the accident collapses. Now we turn to the evidence that cannot lie. The body itself. Physics is not a matter of opinion, it is a matter of universal law. And the laws governing a human body hitting asphalt at 45 miles per hour are brutal and specific. When you exit a moving vehicle at that speed, gravity and momentum go to war. You do not just land, you bounce, you slide. The pavement acts like a belt sander. It shreds clothing and tears skin. Forensic experts call it road rash, but that term is too mild for the reality. It is a deep, abrasive injury that is the hallmark of any high-speed exit. It is undeniable proof of motion. But when Tyrone's family walked into the hospital to identify him, they were met with a confusing sight. They expected to see the horrific aftermath of a slide across the highway. They expected cuts, gravel burns, and torn skin. Instead, they saw a body that was effectively clean. According to the family, Tyrone's skin was intact. His arms were unmarked. His torso showed no signs of being dragged across pavement. The injury that ended his life was concentrated. Massive, blunt force trauma to the head. This creates a forensic impossibility. You cannot jump from a speeding car and sustain only a single impact injury without the secondary damage of the slide. If the car was moving, the road rash should be there. If the road rash is missing, then the car was not moving. This leads us to the alternative theory. It is a scenario that the police report does not consider, but the physical evidence demands we explore. Imagine the car is not speeding down the highway. Imagine it is parked. In this version of events, the vehicle pulls over on that dark stretch of road. The argument does not end with a jump. It moves outside. The doors open. Two people stand on the shoulder of the road. If Tyrone suffered blunt force trauma to the head in this scenario, it wasn't from hitting the road at 45 miles per hour. It was from a fall from a standing position, or a push, or a strike. If he fell while the car was stationary, the lack of road rash makes perfect sense. Gravity would pull him down, causing the head trauma, but without the horizontal momentum that shreds the skin. But this theory introduces a terrifying implication. If the car was stopped, then the story about him jumping from a moving vehicle is a fabrication. And if that central detail is a lie, then the accidental ruling is built on a foundation that does not exist. If the car was stopped, this wasn't a suicide attempt. It was a crime scene. And the person who told the police he jumped was the only other person standing on that road. The investigation into the death of Tyrone Davis Jr. did not last months. It barely lasted days. Almost immediately after the incident, the Gainesville Police Department made their ruling. They declared the death not suspicious. They accepted the narrative that this was a tragic accident, a moment of impulse that ended a life. Their confidence in this ruling rested heavily on a single piece of technology. Reports indicate that Lulu was given a polygraph test, and she passed. To the police, this was confirmation. To the public, it was proof of innocence. But we need to look closer at what a polygraph actually measures. A polygraph is not a truth machine. It does not read minds. It measures stress. It records your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your sweat. It works on the assumption that lying causes anxiety. But what if you aren't anxious? If a person truly believes their version of events, they will pass. If a person is detached from the reality of the moment, they will pass. And we must remember the context. Lulu was recovering from a major surgery. If she was on pain medication for her foot injury, her physiological responses would be suppressed. A sedated nervous system does not spike. It remains flat. In a court of law, polygraph results are generally inadmissible. They are considered unreliable. Yet, in the court of public opinion, and in the eyes of the initial investigators, this test was treated as the final word. The confusion continued at the hospital. Online discussions are filled with rumors that hospital staff confirmed the blunt force trauma. But there is a critical difference between an emergency room doctor and a medical examiner. ER staff are there to save lives, not to analyze crime scenes. They document the injury that killed the patient. They do not document the injuries that are missing. The official autopsy is the only document that matters. And that is where the family began to ask the hardest questions. Tyrone's father did not wait for the police to give him answers. He launched his own inquiry. He contacted the medical examiner directly. According to the family, the medical examiner confirmed the cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. This matched the story of a fall. But the father pressed deeper. He wanted to know about the rest of the body. He wanted to know about the road rash. The discrepancy here is terrifying. The report focuses on the fatal blow. The family is focused on the clean skin. They are demanding the release of the autopsy photos. They want the world to see what they saw, a body that defied the laws of friction. And while the father was chasing the medical evidence, the community was chasing the timeline. Witnesses on social media began to come forward. They claimed they saw the Audi that night, but they didn't describe a normal drive. They described a car that was driving erratically, swerving, speeding, moving in a way that suggests a struggle, or a driver who was not in control. If these witnesses exist, why are their statements not in the police report? If the car was swerving before the jump, it changes everything. It suggests the chaos started long before the door opened. The police say the case is closed. The witnesses say the car was out of control. And the family says the body tells a story that the authorities are refusing to read. Something was happening in that car that the polygraph did not catch, and the witnesses on the road saw what the police missed. Grief does strange things to people. Sometimes it pulls them together. But in the case of Tyrone Davis Jr., it tore them apart. In her public statement, Lulu drew a line in the sand. She thanked the Jennings family, Tyrone's mother's side, for their support. But she pointed a finger at the Davis family, his father's side, accusing them of spreading hate. This is the civil war that is happening right now. One relative from the Davis side refused to stay silent, stating, "We are not looking for someone to blame. We are looking for the truth that the police refused to find." He didn't just walk away from his life. This split is devastating. On one side, you have a family trying to process the loss of a son by accepting the official ruling. It is easier to believe in an accident than to believe in a crime. On the other side, you have a family that suspects foul play. A close friend who knew Tyrone's habits spoke out regarding the vehicle, saying, "He treated that car like gold. The idea that he would jump out of it while it was moving, that isn't the man I knew. That isn't the man any of us knew." This division is the investigation's greatest enemy. When a family speaks with one voice, the authorities listen. When a family is at war with itself, the police file stays closed. But where the family is divided, the internet is united. The hashtag Justice for Tyrone Davis Jr. is not just a slogan. It is a digital investigation. Thousands of strangers are doing the work the detectives considered finished. As another supporter posted online, questioning the timeline, "You can lie to the police, you can lie to the family, but you cannot lie to physics. Show us the medical records, and we will show you the truth." The demands are simple. They are not asking for a new theory. They are asking for the raw data. They want the body cam footage from the first officers on the scene. They want to see the demeanor. They want to see the initial reaction before the story was polished. They want photos of the interior. If there was a struggle, the inside of that Audi holds the fingerprints of a fight. And most importantly, they want the dates, the actual medical records of the foot injury. Because if those dates prove she couldn't drive, then the entire story of that night collapses. The family is waiting, the internet is watching, and the evidence is somewhere in a file in Gainesville, waiting to be read. So here we stand at the end of the timeline. We are left with a puzzle where the pieces physically do not fit. We have a man dead from a high-speed jump, yet his skin bears no mark of the road. We have a driver who was medically instructed not to walk, yet we are told she controlled a vehicle at highway speeds in the middle of a crisis. And we have a police department that closed the file before the internet could even open the photos. This leaves us with one final, haunting question. Did Tyrone Davis Jr. actually jump, or was he silenced? The Gainesville Police Department needs to hear from you. Do not let this story fade into the algorithm. Share this video. Tag the department. Demand the release of the body cam footage. The truth is out there, sitting in an evidence locker, waiting for enough people to ask for it. Until we find it, stay safe and always trust your gut.
Keep looking. You got a little bit of everything in there.
I'm trying to digest and process all of this, man. Bro, that's crazy. Bro, this jacket is so perfect.